finished. So, good afternoon from Yerevan, and welcome to this press conference with the President of the EBRD, Odile Renaud-Basso, I should say the newly re-elected President of the EBRD. My name is Richard Porter. I'm the Managing Director of Communications here at the bank. What's going to happen in the next half hour is Odile will give a very brief introduction summarising what's been going on at this annual meeting, which is just drawing to a close now. She'll then open the floor to questions. So if you have questions, if you're a journalist in the room here, we'll be happy to take your questions. We also have supplied journalists who registered online with the code to be able to send questions online to me, which I will see on the screen. Make sure you put your name and the name of your organisation, and then I will also put those questions to Odile. That's it from me for now. I'm just going to hand to Odile, who's going to just give you, as I say, a brief summary of what's been going on. Thank you.
So thank you, Richard. And I will start by saying that we just closed a very successful annual meeting here in Yerevan, 33rd annual meeting for the bank. And I would really like to thank the Armenian authorities, but also Armenian people, and for the hospitality. I think it was a very good opportunity to bring a lot of foreign investors, foreign countries to Armenia and to showcase the country and the success in these countries and its potential for investment. And I'm very happy about the way the meetings went and the very warm welcome by the country, including the media. So for me, from this perspective, these few days where I had a lot of highlight, also in the relationship between EBRD and Armenia, we had the opportunity, for example, to have a digital day in Tumo Center, which has been a partner of the bank for quite a long time. We are investing, helping them to develop the center and to enlarge what they are doing. And it was very, interesting to see and to measure, to see these very young people coming out of school and doing IT training, but also young entrepreneurs developing new projects and pitching their new project. We had yesterday a very successful opening session with the Prime Minister Pashinyan, and also an investment outlook session with the President of Armenia, presenting Armenia opportunities for foreign investment and the economic strategy reform agenda. It gave us also the opportunity to sign a number of projects. Maybe the biggest one and the most symbolic one is the financing of the road between Sishan and Kajagan. I always trouble with the pronunciation, but Kajagan, which is a very big project, north-south, big road, and we are investing 236 million in this project, financing with other MDBs. It's a good example of another important agenda in this meeting, which is collaboration between MDBs, because this will be a project co-financed with a number of MDBs, and which is a very important project in terms of infrastructure and connectivity for the country. And this is the largest project in Armenia we've ever done up to now, and contributing to, we expect to have a very strong year in terms of investment in the country this year. For the bank itself, for the institutional agenda of the bank itself, it was the beginning of the discussion of the new strategic and capital framework, which will define the bank's strategy and priorities up to the end of this decade. And it was just come out of this discussion. What was striking, I found, is a convergence of views among shareholders about, first of all, the importance of the bank's mandate, developing market, developing the private sector. This is clearly a reaffirmed priority from our shareholders, with the objective to deliver impact in our countries of operation. There are clear expectations in terms of priorities that we will continue to remain very focused on the green agenda. I think there is a shared understanding and that the climate crisis is accelerating, and that we need to accelerate our green transition, and that MDBs have a very important role to play. EBRD has always been very, driving this agenda in a very ambitious manner, and we will continue to do that. The second priority which is shaping and it will be a continuation of what we are doing, which is inclusion and equality of opportunities. This is also very important in terms of sustainability of reform, sustainability of growth, and foster economic good governance. This is something the EBRD has always been doing, but I think in the current juncture where we see in a number of countries a large role of public sector and so forth, improving the governance of state-owned enterprise, continuing market reform, ensuring competitiveness and open economies is very important. So that will be a part of our upcoming priorities in the next SCF. And all this agenda will be supported by two key enablers, which are elements that will help supporting our impact and our activity. It's the digital transition, which of course is today everywhere, and so it needs to be. It is seen as a key enabler both for the bank as our own digital journey, but also all the support we can provide to countries and clients in this area. And also, last but not least, mobilization of the private sector. And there is also clear awareness that MDB financing will not be enough to finance what is needed to reach the Sustainable Development Goal or to finance the green transition. And therefore, it's extremely important to bring in private sector together with us, and the role MDBs can play into mobilizing private sector is seen as a key priority. So we'll have now these key elements in place, and we will work on that in the coming year with a view for our Board of Governors to approve the next strategic and capital framework in 1 year in London. We also made good progress in an important agenda for the bank, which is the outcome of last year's decision, which is our enlargement to the capacity to invest in sub-Saharan African countries and Iraq, and we are making very good progress in terms of membership. Benin was already a member and was participating together with Iraq to this annual meeting for the first time. Today, Governor decided to approve the membership application of Kenya and Nigeria. So now we have all the 6 countries in which we aim to be able to invest, hopefully in 2025, that are in the process, either already member as Benin or in the process of membership, is together with Kenya and Nigeria, Ivory Coast, Senegal, and Ghana. So that really shows our expansion in sub-Saharan Africa taking shape and it will become very clear, very soon, a very new operational area for the bank. One theme, and there were roundtable dedicated to that of this year, and building upon what was done in the discussion in Washington, was also MDB cooperation. I think this is a strong expectation from shareholders and also a strong commitment from the leadership of the different banks to work together. And we had a roundtable with the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, EIB, and key partners in Armenia. Key countries for us and shareholders participating to a discussion on what can we do, what should be the priorities in that respect. So, last point I wanted to make before going to question is just about my re-election. So I'm truly honored to have been re-elected by shareholders for a new mandate. I think it's a testimony to the results achieved by the bank. Our activity in Ukraine, which is a very important priority for our shareholders, and our deliveries and the support we got from shareholders in this country has been seen as instrumental in supporting the country and in helping the country in the difficult circumstances they are with, and we will continue to do that. That will be one important priority that we will drive our activity in the next few years, Ukraine and the affected countries, because the impact of the war are quite wide. So I would like to thank the shareholders for their trust, their confidence, and I will do my best to deliver and to ensure that the bank becomes bigger, better, and for the benefits of the countries we are investing in particular, including Armenia and all others. Thank you.
Thank you, Odile. Okay, so we'll take some questions now. Just a reminder, if you registered online to join, you will have a code for slido.com, which enables you to send your questions, and then I can read them. But obviously, we have a lot of people in the room, and it'd just be interesting to take some questions from people who are here. If you'd like to put your hand up, and we'll get a microphone to you. Yes, please go ahead. Yes.
Hi, Anita from the Banker. I just wanted to follow up on your expansion into sub-Saharan Africa. On the panel earlier today with the other MDBs, I know at the end, Alexia from the US Treasury sort of said in 12 months, what she would like to see is to truly embed collaboration with other MDBs that are already in Africa to understand how the EBRD can add value there. I just wondered if you can, I mean, that to me seemed to suggest that she was questioning what value you can bring, because there are already development banks there. So how would you respond to that?
No, I think this has been a long discussion among shareholders, and Alexia was at some point not in the bank promoting this. No, it's been a long and deep assessment, because indeed, Africa, you have a lot of MDBs and bilateral institutions investing in Africa already, and it's a fully relevant question to see what it was not part of our historical mandate, so what we would bring. And I think after a lot of study, look also, mission on the ground, discussion with potential clients, discussion with the authorities, discussion with other MDBs, it's clear, and the conclusion was clear, and it was taken last year in Samarkand, that we will bring some value added. I think it's very much related to our specific business profile and our mandate, which is focusing on the private sector, but being able still to invest in the public sector. So we are mainly private sector, 75% of our investment in the private sector, but still the capacity to do some public sector project, either with state-owned enterprise, with sub-sovereign, but also with the government. And this gives us a very strong basis also to do some policy work. And I think our specific feature is to bring together policy work that will be transformative to facilitate private sector investment. And one very good example of what we've been doing, and we are developing that in 40 countries in our current countries of operation, is, for example, what we do for developing renewable investment, which is providing advice to government to how do you develop auction that will bring the best value for money and that will attract private investors. So it's this mix between policy, technical assistance, and investment that is quite unique to EBRD, and this will, I think, add something in sub-Saharan African countries. The other rationale is what we've been delivering in CEMED. You know that in CEMED we're not part of our historic countries of operation. We started the operation there, and what we've shown is that we were not crowding out the others, so substituting, replacing, competing in a negative sense with the other MDBs, but with our activity there, we contributed to enlarge the number and the volume of projects that were financed in this region. And so we successfully, in a way, increased with this upstream work and so forth, increased the number of bankable projects, which is, I think, for the benefit of the country. And so I think based on this experience, we believe that we can really bring something. But of course, it's very important to work with the others and to see where we have a complementarity, additionality, and so forth. So that will be, we are already engaged with, for example, African Development Bank. We are partnering with them in CEMED, and we will continue to do so in Africa. One of our very specific value proposal is to be able to do small projects, on average much smaller than the other MDBs, and including with SMEs. And we have a lot of different instruments to support SMEs, and which are quite specific to EBRD.
Okay, thank you. It'd be really good to hear some questions from Armenian journalists in the room, but you had your hand up first, so I'll come to you next. Yeah. No, I noticed, but you were still first, so go ahead, please.
I wondered if you could elaborate a bit on your priorities for Ukraine going forward.
So our priorities are very clear. I mean, to support the real economy in Ukraine, to continue to support the private sector. Last year, we invested 1 billion, half of which in the private sector, either through financial institutions, trade finance, but also direct financing to companies in Ukraine, private sector companies. So to continue to do that, and there are a lot of needs because of either for working capital, for investment in the country, relocation, logistics, and so forth. So that was, and the second priority is to support key infrastructure municipalities in addressing the challenge created by the war. And on that, we have to be very agile. Last year, we worked a lot, for example, with the network electricity company, Ukrenergo, when they were, bombed and infrastructure being destroyed very, significantly. Now the target is more energy generation, and so we are working on a plan, and how we can provide support to distributed electricity generation. And so we will adjust, but basically, I think we try to, what we try and to do is to support key infrastructure to keep the economy going. So it's electricity, energy, but also transportation, railway, road reconstruction, and so forth. And really what is fundamental for business to be able to continue, because if the country needs to continue to sustain the war, it needs some financing, tax revenues, and so forth. So we see that as a very important element in the current situation for Ukraine.
Thank you very much.
And last point, we are doing also on Ukraine, we continue to support a lot of reform agenda. It's quite amazing to see what the country in war can continue to do in reform. Fight against corruption, improve SOE, state-owned enterprise governance, and so forth. And this is a very important part of what we are doing. An additional element, but I could continue for hours, so I would stop, is we have a sort of focus now, which is becoming more important on human capital, resilience, how to help clients to integrate veterans and so forth, because it's unfortunately becoming a more acute issue in the country.
Unfortunately, time is tight, Odile, so we'll take another question now. In the second row here, and if you could just remember to say who you are as well, please, where you're from.
Հայկական լրատվամիջոցի ներկայացուցիչը կցանկանար հարցը հնչեցնել հայերին, եթե դեմ չեք։ Հարցս ուղղում եմ տիկին նախագահին, նախորդին մայիսի 15-ին հրապարակվեց ձեր EBRD զեկույցը, որում Հայաստանի մասով տնտեսական զարգացումը 2024 թվականին կանխատեսվեց 6.2%-ի մակարդակով։ Այս կանխատեսումը հետաքրքիր է նաև այն տեսանկյունից, որ վերջին զեկույցներում Հայաստանի գործընկեր այլ միջազգային ֆինանսական կառույցները, իդեմս IMF-ի, World Bank-ի, ADB-ի ու նաև միջազգային վարկանիշային կազմակերպությունները հնչեցրել են ավելի ցածր ցուցանիշներ։ Ինքը մեր հայրենի կենտրոնական բանկը նույնպես ավելի ցածր ցուցանիշ է կանխատեսել 2024 թվականի համար։ Հարցս բաղկացած է երկու մասից։ Առաջինը, ինչի հիման վրա եք դուք այդպիսի պոզիտիվ գնահատական տվել հայկական տնտեսության մասով, նաև այն ֆոնին, որ եթե չեմ սխալվում, մայիսի 7-ին դուք Լոնդոնում նշել էիք ավելի ցածր ցուցանիշ 5%-ի մակարդակով։ Ինչով է պայմանավորված այս դրական կանխատեսումը եւ երկրորդ այս կանխատեսման մեջ հաշվի առնվել է նա, որ Չինաստանի տնտեսությունն է սկսել դանդաղել, ինչի մասին ահազանգում են նաեւ շատ մասնագետներ։ Շնորհակալություն։
Before Odile answers, we also have our Chief Economist, Beata Gavurchik, here, and she can probably fill in some of the details. Do you want to just go straight to Beata, or would you like to?
No, I think the project, forecasts are done by the economists in a completely, all MDBs in an independent manner, so there are no wide underlying factors. And I think that this is our best assumption, but Beata will be able to give a bit more of the underlying trends that we see and explaining this forecast.
So I think the short answer is that in 2022, countries in the region, including Armenia, saw inflows of finance, of businesses, and of people from Russia, many of these people were highly skilled professionals working in the IT sector. And my understanding is that this inflow of people was equivalent to 2.5% of population of Armenia. And that Armenia saw doubling of employment in ICT sector in 2022. This is, in our view, paying a dividend, and exports of services, including ICT services, are also helping with the external balance, and they help bring current account deficit, which is structural in the case of Armenia, to 2%. Also, there was a boost given by unfortunate events in Karabakh as refugees came in. The government increased spending to help them integrate, and that boosted the economic activity, and we expect that this is going to affect the economy going forward. Finally, looking into the medium term, Armenia can play a role of a connector country. This is a new term that was coined by the IMF, and it pertains to countries that can serve as channels of trade and between blocks that are sort of rapidly forming in the global economy. Thank you. Chinese economy is slowing down, but it's still growing at, I believe, just under 5%. So in that sense, it's not a dramatic change, at least in our view, for Armenia.
Okay, thank you. Just behind you, another question. We have
thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Economic Journalists Club, Armenia. On trade fragmentation, broadly speaking, in your opinion, how much is it going to penalize economic growth in Central Eastern Europe and CIS region? And is the bank considering increasing finance delivery through trade facilitation program? Have you been approached by Armenian banks during the annual meeting to that end, who may be looking for such kind of finance? Thank you.
So we have a very strong partnership with Armenian banks, and this is one pillar of what we do in this country, working with the banking system and through banks, including trade finance. So that's something we do on a regular basis. So it may increase, but it's already there, existing, and we also use the financial institution to channel targeted programs for women in business, small enterprise, green financing, and so forth. So it's a very important. They are very important partners. We just announced also the development, and we just signed a new product with the banking system with risk-sharing facility, where we do not provide liquidity financing, but we cover part of the risk of the portfolio. And on the fragmentation of the trade, I mean that's an issue. That's a threat. I'm not sure. I mean, it really depends on the decisions that will be taken. I mean, you see a lot of discussion and on the trade measures, some new measures in the US, some EU considering some measures. So that's. We need to see what will be the outcome exactly at the EU level. For the time being, it's more, I mean, consideration than, I mean, they have not taken concrete steps But of course, what we see is the impact in this region, the impact of the war on Russia and the war on Ukraine and the situation with Russia, and the need to develop alternative physical infrastructure to enhance connectivity. And the road project I was mentioning is part of that, but this is a broader agenda which, I mean, is related to Central Asia and Caucasus, and including Armenia. And it will, I mean, it's very, very broad, very ambitious. It will take time, but it's about physical infrastructure, but also non-physical infrastructure. And we had, in that respect, also a very illustrative project in customs to facilitate customs processes in this country with the neighboring country. So that's something we will part of our strategy in terms of investment.
Okay, we've got time for just one more question because Odile has to go straight to another engagement from here. If we don't get through all the questions that people have, we have Loretta and other media team colleagues who'll be able to follow up with you. But please go ahead, yes.
Շնորհակալություն ձեր թույլտվությամբ ես նույնպես հայերեն հարցս հնչեցնեմ Աննա Բաղդասարյան տնտեսական լրագրողների ակումբ Տիկին նախագահ Ինչպես կգնահատեք Հայաստանում իրականացված վարկային ներդրումների արդյունավետությունը հավելյան արժեք ստեղծելու առումով համախառն ներքին արդյունք աշխատատեղերի ավելացում եւ այլն եւ դրանից ելնելով առաջիկա տարիներին որոնք են այն նախընտրելի ոլորտները որտեղ ՎԶԲ նախատեսում է ավելացնել ներդրումները շնորհակալություն
So we believe our interventions are really helpful in the development of the private sector. I was mentioning the activity we've been doing is through the banking sector, but we also have direct support for SMEs through advisory activities and financing support. Overall, we have invested 2 billion euros, more than 2 billion euros in Armenia, and I think it's 80% of it in the private sector. So it's really in terms of job creation. I don't remember the figure we have in mind. I don't have in mind the figure, but I think that it has an impact. So it's over time. Of course, it's always measuring precisely the impact is always a challenge, and it's on the agenda of the bank to improve the way to measure impact. But I believe this impact has been quite significant. One area when it has been clearly very important also is on the green agenda to support, for example, we invested quite a lot in Yerevan, supporting the green agenda and the green transition, and that will remain part of our priorities. We are working in this country on development of renewable, which are very important to support the green agenda, but also to enhance energy security and reduce dependency on third countries. And we've seen in Europe the risk of being too dependent. So I think that's part of what we discuss with the authorities and what we will continue to support. So so I really believe that with the reform support also we provide to the country, and Armenia is a very good example where we have a efficient business council with investors council, which has been in place since 17 years and delivering, I think, a good environment, facilitating the discussion between investors and the authorities, and contributing to a good environment for businesses in terms of tax, transparency, administrative procedures, and so forth. So there is always progress are always possible, but I think we start from a good point where this has proven an efficient instrument to attract investment. In the priorities, other priorities, I mean, digital is something the country has a strong capacities, strong skills, and this is an area we will continue to work on in this country.
Alkis is our regional director for the...
So connectivity, we invested also in infrastructure, for example, in a bridge with Georgia, which is very important to unlock the country and to facilitate trade. And record year, I already said it, but okay. And we will have, I mean, we expect 2024 to be a record year, probably 500 million investment in the country, which is a very high level, and we hope to be able to sustain. We are a demand-driven bank, so we do not set target, but we really work on project. But hopefully, I mean, the economic development, reform agenda, and so forth will facilitate further investment.
Perhaps you can talk to Alkis afterwards if you want more detail, because he's the guy with the numbers. Okay, we have to go, I'm afraid, but thank you very much indeed for your questions. Really appreciate it.